So again, welcome everyone. My name is Emily Vale, Executive Director of the Hudson River Watershed Alliance, and our theme this fall for our breakfast webinar series is Climate Smart Communities and Water. The Hudson River Watershed Alliance is a regional nonprofit. We work to unite and empower communities to protect our shared waters. We do that by supporting community-based watershed groups, improving coordination across municipalities, and communicating as a collective voice. Last year, our annual watershed conference focused on water and climate change, and we had 3 great sessions where we explored many of the interconnections between climate change and water. And watersheds are really important as we're thinking about the impacts of a changing climate on our region, seeing episodes of flooding, drought, erosion, and issues of water quality like harmful algal blooms, combined sewer overflows, and so many other issues. These topics are really interconnected, and so it's a really fruitful area to be exploring how we can work on climate change adaptation, watershed management, and watershed protection all together. So a quick intro to the Climate Smart Communities program. This is a program run by New York State to help local governments take action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to a changing climate. They provide grants and free technical assistance for support. We'll share some links after the presentation that I include in here. And registered communities can pass the Climate Smart Communities Pledge. Certified communities can complete and document actions that mitigate and adapt to climate change at the local level. There's a lot of benefits to participating in this program, including points on some state grant applications, and Kelsey will go into more detail in her presentation. So just in terms of some terminology, the certification actions come with points that can lead to a bronze, silver, or gold level certification in the Climate Smart Communities program. 2 of the actions are required, 13 are priority, and more than 100 additional possible actions on a wide range of topics are possible. The actions for certification are organized by 7 pledge elements, and then the actions are listed under those. And in terms of watershed work, we're really looking at pledge element 6 and pledge element 7, land use policies and enhancing community resilience. So really, we're focused much more on the adaptation side, although there is a wide range of actions available in the program. So there are so many opportunities to collaborate on watershed work, and in particular, what watershed groups may be working on, other community partners. There are a lot of goals that may align, and we can leverage both municipal and community strengths to support participation in the Climate Smart Communities program. So in this webinar series, we're going to be highlighting technical assistance providers, case studies on water-related opportunities through the Climate Smart Communities program. If you're affiliated with a municipality, we hope you might get inspiration, support, ideas, help with your Climate Smart Communities work. If you are not a municipality, you may be working on projects that can support communities in this program. And so we wanted to highlight some of those interconnections. So save the dates for our additional webinars in this series on October 12th, November 9th, and December 14th. That's the second Thursday of each month from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. over Zoom. We want to thank the Hudson River Estuary Program and NUIPIC for supporting this program. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Lauren Bunce from Hudson Valley Regional Council for helping provide some technical support on this project as well. Save the date as well for our annual Watershed Conference. This year, our conference theme is Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Environmental Justice. We've got a 2-part conference with a virtual webinar on Wednesday, October 11th in the afternoon, and an in-person session on Tuesday, October 24th at the FDR Historic Site in Hyde Park. We'll provide context, strategies, and case studies from the Hudson River watershed related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. And we're really excited about this conference. Registration is open. There's more information on our website, so make sure you check that out. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to the Hudson Valley Flood Resilience Network. This is a network of municipal leaders from the Hudson Valley that are working together on current and future flood risk. The network is facilitated by the Hudson River Watershed Alliance, New York Sea Grant, and the Consensus Building Institute. We have a brand new website, hvfloodresiliencenetwork.org, that you can check out if you're interested, if your municipality is interested in joining the Flood Resilience Network. Lots more information on there, especially if you're working specifically on flooding. We can provide a lot of support in that area. If you're a regional partner, there's opportunities for participation as well. So check out our brand new website. This event is also the first event in Hudson Valley Climate Solutions Week. This is a series of events, over 50 participating events across the Hudson Valley focused on climate solutions, and you can check out more information and see the other events at hvclimatesolutionsweek.org. So that's it from me, and I'm next going to hand it over to Kelsey West and Carolyn Klocker from Cornell Cooperative Extension for our featured presentation. While they're sharing their screen, I'll also mention if you have questions for our presenters during the talks, please use the Q&A box. If you're just joining us, feel free to keep using the chat box to let us know where you're zooming in from, who's in the Zoom room with us, but we'll use the Q&A box for question and answers, which we'll have at the end of the program. So with that, I'll hand it over to Kelsey and Carolyn.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for the introduction, Emily. I am Kelsey West. I am an environmental educator at CCE Dutchess, and I'm joined by Carolyn Klocker, the program leader of the Environment and Energy team. And we are here today to introduce you to the Climate Smart Communities program and talk a little bit about how participating in this program might align with your community's current watershed or water resource related projects and priorities. Oh, there we go. So Climate Smart Communities, as Emily mentioned, is a New York State program that supports local governments in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and adapting to the effect of climate change by providing local governments with a robust framework of actionable options to guide climate action efforts. So to participate, communities do need to take a pledge, a template for which is available at the Climate Smart Communities website. And this is a voluntary program with no enforcement or requirements unless the municipality wishes to participate. It's a very comprehensive program, and actions are applicable to all different types of municipalities, all different scales, sizes, and whether you come from a city, a village, a rural or suburban town, or even a village with hamlets, a county, there's a pathway for everybody to achieve New York State Climate Smart Community certification. So the program is built around 10 pledge elements. Each pledge element is associated with a menu of different actions for which a municipality can earn points for by completing. And there are well over 100 actions at this point, and you can choose from those actions. They're all assigned a different point value. And a community can apply to become a Climate Smart Communities by uploading documentation to an online portal to show that certain actions have been completed to meet a certain point threshold. So applicants can achieve one of 3 certification levels: silver, bronze, or gold. That was out of order. Bronze is obviously the first level that you would want to try to achieve. And bronze level certification requires 120 points and some other criteria, and silver certification requires 300 points. So there are some additional requirements. Communities must complete 2 mandatory actions: establishing a Climate Smart Communities task force and also appointing a Climate Smart Communities coordinator. There are also priority actions within the program, and to reach bronze certification level, 3 of those must be completed. And I just wanted to bring attention, I'm sure you've been looking at them already, but on the slide are the Climate Smart Communities pledge elements. So there are many benefits to participating in this program. First of all, that guiding framework of the program is really great in order to guide municipalities through actionable items. But in addition to that, participating communities can receive free technical assistance. And we will provide some more details later about what those opportunities may be. You may also be able to receive guidance through resources and tools like the monthly webinars organized by New York State DEC's Office of Climate Change. Communities that become certified in the program also receive statewide recognition for certification, especially for their leadership in addressing climate change. And lastly, communities may also score higher when applying to certain competitive grant opportunities available through New York State. So those are the Climate Smart Communities grants and the ZEV rebates. So as I was putting this presentation together, it kind of struck me that we had an old map in one of our slides. The map on the left is from about 5 years ago, and it shows participating communities in the Climate Smart Communities program. Those blue pins you're seeing are registered communities, which Emily alluded to. The reddish brown pins are bronze certified, and the grayish pins are silver certified communities. And so I just think it's notable, first of all, how much progress has been made in New York State over the last few years through the certification program. But I also wanted to just point out how densely participating communities are in the Hudson Valley. And I'm sure there are many reasons why this might be the case, but one of the factors that I think is leading to a lot of success is that communities are taking opportunities to leverage actions that they're already doing towards certification efforts. So for communities that might have active watershed groups, many of the projects and programs that you might already be doing or interested in prioritizing in the future might align with Climate Smart Communities actions. So at this point, I'm going to pass this off to Carolyn Klocker, and she's going to talk a little bit more about some of the actions of the Climate Smart Communities program that might directly intersect with some of your interests.
Great, thanks, Kelsey. As Kelsey said, I'm Carolyn Klocker, and I am the Environment and Energy Program Leader at Cornell Cooperative Extension, Dutchess County. Would you move to the next slide, please? All right, so before we jump into some of the individual actions that do focus on water, I did want to kind of direct you into where you can find more information. And Kelsey, to give you a heads up, there are a couple animations in this slide that I didn't tell you about ahead of time, so I'm going to have you click quite a bit. Right, so when you go to the Climate Smart Communities website, I know Emily dropped the URL, the address to the website in the chat. And when you go there, there is a specific page for actions. That URL is at the top of this slide. And you'll see all of those pledge elements listed out. They organize each of the actions by the particular pledge element that the action kind of meets. And when you click on one of those particular pledge elements in the list, so Kelsey, if you could click, you'll see each of the actions that you can get credit for in the program underneath it. And then when you click on the action, Kelsey, if you could click again, there's going to be a plethora of information that the Office of Climate Change in New York State provides to you. And now if you'll click again one more time, Kelsey, this includes information on why the action is important, how to implement the action, potential timeframes to consider, which parts of a local government implement this action, which departments, and even information on what types of organization and groups to partner with. Watershed groups definitely being one of them for many of the actions that we're going to be discussing and just kind of introducing to you today. They talk about how to obtain points, what to submit. And then what's really, really helpful is that additional resources and examples of communities that have completed this action, where there are resources to help you through that. As Kelsey mentioned, we're going to talk a bit about some of the resources that are available for some of these actions, as well as more. But next slide, please. I do want to share, because each action is unique, and there's quite a bit of resources that are really specific to each of the actions. But as you may already be aware, the Hudson Valley Regional Council for the Mid-Hudson region and the Capital District Regional Planning Commission for the Capital District region have the contracts with NYSERDA and the New York State DEC to be the Clean Energy Communities Coordinators and the Climate Smart Communities Coordinators for these regions. And so I like giving people like a one-stop shop to get more information and answers to questions. Because like I said, the Mid-Hudson Valley, there are quite a bit of resources available and organizations available to provide quite a bit of technical support and assistance to communities and watershed groups pursuing these actions. But the folks at the Hudson Valley Regional Council and the Capital District Regional Planning Commission are aware of all of these resources and can be that place when you're not sure who to go to for help. Go to them, and then they can direct you. They may be able to be a specific resource themselves to you, but if they're not, they know who can provide you more in-depth technical assistance on particular actions. So just wanted to make sure you were all aware of them. And they're Liz and Lauren are both on this webinar, and Liz is going to be telling you a little bit more about some of the support that they are able to provide at the end of our presentation today. So, all right, next slide, please. So now we're going to jump into some of the specific actions. And I'm just going to be providing a basic introduction to the action for each of these, some resources to take a look at. You should know that in our presentation, each of the resource images that are in here, I've hyperlinked so that when you get a PDF of the presentations from Emily in the coming days, you should be able to click on them and it should direct you to the website where you can find more information on that particular resource. But of course, it makes sense to kind of start off with a watershed plan for water quality, right? A lot of you are part of watershed groups. You may have already been working on a watershed plan, or it may be time to update a watershed plan. And that is something that you can get credit for in the Climate Smart Communities program. But just to take a little step back for some who may be newer to the concept of a watershed plan, a watershed characterization. So you can get credit for this action by creating a watershed characterization report and or a watershed plan that focuses on the quality of the water resources within the communities of the watershed. So a watershed characterization, it essentially provides an inventory, an analysis that describes the current state of the watershed that is the main focus of the report. And then a watershed management plan takes it the next step. It refines the characterization of the watershed, and it works to develop specific management recommendations and site-specific projects and plans that will address the water quality goals that have been identified. And then there's also, some of you may be familiar with a 9-element watershed management plan. And this kind of just takes that watershed management plan a next step, especially for watersheds that have identified pollutants of concern. And a 9-element watershed plan specifically quantifies pollutant loads by calculating their total maximum daily load, or if you've heard the acronym TMDL, that's what it stands for, total maximum daily load. So these plans quantify that pollutants total maximum daily load and then provides an estimate of pollutant reductions needed in order to achieve the water quality goals that have been basically set by the management plan. So again, Climate Smart Communities, you can complete this action by implementing or creating a watershed characterization and or watershed plan that focuses on the quality of water resources. New York State has several resources to help guide creation of these plans, including what you see on your screen, that watershed planning guidebook. This is a fantastic guidebook, and I've watershed groups that we've worked with in the past have utilized this to kind of give them an idea of how to lay out their plan. There's also a DEC guide for 9-element watershed management plans, as well as many staff at both the DEC and the Department of State that help communities go through the process of creating a watershed management plan, especially if they apply to the funding that is available from the Department of State and or the DEC. And then finally, of course, the Hudson River Watershed Alliance provides quite a bit of technical assistance to groups interested in developing or updating a watershed management plan. So Emily would clearly be a resource to a group who wanted to undergo a new watershed management plan or update an old one. Next slide, please. Right, so very closely related, right? So we talked about how a watershed management plan starts with a characterization of the watershed. A natural resource inventory is similar in that it inventories the natural resources of an area, both the physical, biological, and it provides a foundation for municipal land use and conservation planning. So communities can use their NRIs to identify priorities and determine appropriate strategies for protecting important natural features and the ecosystem services that they provide. So a complete and up-to-date inventory can be really helpful for communities that are updating municipal plans, like your comprehensive plans, developing ordinances and overlay zones and updating zoning, and reviewing development projects, as well as just a tool for a county or regional planning and project assessment. So for the Climate Smart Communities program, an NRI can be part of an existing effort. Sometimes people include a natural resource inventory as part of a comprehensive plan, or an open space plan would be another example, but it can also be a standalone project. And the New York State DEC Hudson River Estuary Program has created this fantastic guide that you see on your screen for communities who are interested in creating a natural resource inventory. They also provide grant opportunities to communities wanting to complete an NRI through their stewardship grants. And then finally, the staff at the DEC Hudson River Estuary Program also provide opportunities around once a year for communities to apply to receive technical assistance from their staff. And lately they've been doing it in a cohort model where they have two neighboring communities come together, and the staff at the DEC provide a lot of technical assistance in creating the inventory and drafting the narrative, and then staff from Cooperative Extension provide GIS expertise to create the maps. Next slide, please. All right, so now we're going to talk about source water protection and source water protection plans. So a source water protection plan essentially describes itself in its name, in that it's an individualized protection plan for a community's drinking water source. The state has a program, the Drinking Water Source Protection Program, sometimes shortened to DWSP2. And it provides a framework that is designed to aid communities in creating individualized protection plans for their drinking water sources. And this proactive approach can help communities better understand the potential climate impacts to water resources and implement measures to ensure that their water supply remains consistent and cost-effective, viable, and resilient in the face of climate change. And as I mentioned, this drinking water source protection program provides this framework, but it also provides quite a bit of technical assistance and support to communities. And Lauren Bunce, who again is on this a presentation from the Hudson Valley Regional Council. She's their water resources coordinator, and she's been putting together a program where she's going to be able to provide quite a bit of technical assistance to communities interested in developing a source water protection plan. So if you have any questions about this, or you're interested in exploring this as an option, I'd highly recommend reaching out to her. Next slide, please. All right, so we talked about a general watershed management plan for water quality, but communities can also get points in the Climate Smart Communities program for putting together a flood mitigation plan at a watershed scale. And so a flood mitigation plan first works to identify and study areas of flooding concern in a community, and then models existing conditions and projected changes in land use and community development that would impact flooding, and then it works to develop strategies that can mitigate future floods in specific locations of a community to reduce a community's risk. So conducting a watershed-based flood mitigation plan, that is a mouthful, can help identify key projects and strategies to improve climate adaptation in a community. And a flood mitigation plan can be a standalone plan, but it can also easily and often is incorporated into a watershed management plan. If you have flood mitigation strategies in your watershed management plan, and your community or your watershed group did some research and had some studies done to identify what flooding could look like in the future, and work to address mitigation strategies ahead of time, that plan could qualify as well for this particular action. So in addition to the resources that I shared a few slides back that focused on watershed management plan, New York State also provides this flood risk management guidance document, and FEMA provides a plethora of resources, including their National Risk Index website. And for a plan such as this, that specifically requires some hydraulic modeling, often you will need to seek some technical assistance to at least assist with that part, the hydraulic modeling. All right, next slide, please. So next, we have the water conservation and reuse. And I failed to mention when I first started diving into these slides, and when I showed at the beginning the various pledge elements and how to find information about these specific actions, I did note on each of these slides which pledge element this action is part of. So this is part of pledge element 7, which really focuses on adaptation action. So I just kind of wanted to note that if you were wondering what PE7 stands for, it stands for pledge element 7. So sorry about that. All right, so water conservation often saves us money and reduces the need to find new, likely more expensive sources of fresh water in the future. And climate-smart land use policies can play a very important role in ensuring that drinking water supplies are replenished and streams have sufficient base flow. So for this particular action, communities can get credit in the program in several ways. They can conduct community outreach and education around water conservation and reuse. They can also create and implement a water conservation and reuse program specifically for internal government operations. And then they can take a step broader and create and implement a water conservation and reuse program for the community. So any of these actions would give you a certain amount of points, and if you did them cumulatively, you'd get even more points. And I'm sure you're all familiar that there are quite a few resources out there that can help guide a community through this action. And I highly encourage groups to check them out. EPA has the Water Sense program. There's a New York Rural Water Association, and much more. But this is one of those actions that I also think, and I wanted to make you aware for all of the actions, when you go to the Climate Smart Communities website, if you click on that map that Kelsey showed in some of her slides, there's a really, really awesome function of the map that allows you to sort the map by actions that have been completed by communities that have become certified, and you can see exactly what they did to become certified in that particular action. And I think it's just a great way to kind of understand the action a little bit better, and a great way to find examples of what other communities have done and found to be useful and helpful to kind of give you ideas. So this is a great action to show that as an example. I brought up on here the city of Albany has received credit for this particular action, and they did a rain barrel program, a community rain barrel building program. And I have an affinity for rain barrel building programs because when Emily and I first started working together, we did quite a few rain barrel building workshops. And so I love a good rain barrel program, but it just gives you an idea of some of the activities and work that you all are doing as a watershed group and getting out there in the community and educating folks about water conservation and reuse are also applicable to programs like Climate Smart Communities. All right, next slide, please. So now we're going to talk about green infrastructure, and you're all probably familiar with green infrastructure, but just in case, green infrastructure is sometimes referred to as low impact development or better site design, and it uses natural processes to capture stormwater or rain through retention, infiltration, and evapotranspiration. So while some green infrastructure measures support the reuse of water, the main objective for green infrastructure is to decrease flooding and reduce the impact of combined sewer overflows. So some examples of green infrastructure include green roofs, rainwater harvesting and reuse, so rain barrels and cisterns, downspout disconnection, so redirecting that roof runoff to vegetation or permeable pavement or a rain barrel or the like, bioretention systems with vegetation such as bioinfiltration areas or rain gardens are examples. Permeable pavement, which I mentioned, is stream daylighting, when you take a buried stream and bring it back up to the light. So there are several ways communities can get credit for green infrastructure in the Climate Smart Communities program. One is updating or creating a community-wide plan for green infrastructure. Another is implementing and completing a green infrastructure training for local government staff. So teaching local government staff how to maintain green infrastructure practices that are implemented in municipally or in the community, so that they practices last quite a bit longer. You can also get credit for conducting a feasibility study on sites and locations and whether green infrastructure would be appropriate for handling stormwater in that area and what kinds. And then, of course, for actually implementing green infrastructure projects. All right, next slide. So this one is a mouthful too. So you may be familiar with the National Flood Insurance Program. It is FEMA's program that requires flood insurance for any area of a community that's at high risk for flooding, according to the FEMA floodplain maps. And FEMA also has this program through the National Flood Insurance Program called the Community Rating System. And essentially, by participating in the community rating system, communities can reduce flood risk, enhance their public safety, reduce damage to property and public infrastructure, and reduce insurance rates for community property owners. So under the community rating system, flood insurance premiums are discounted to reward community actions to minimize exposure to floods. So the community rating system, it rates a community on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the best, to determine what flood insurance premium reductions could be for residents. And then the more mitigation actions a community completes in the program, the more they can improve their rating and thus reduce flood insurance premiums for their community. And so on the screen are some examples of activities that communities can complete. I will say this program is complex. And so if it's something that you want to undertake, I highly recommend that you get some technical support and assistance to navigate it. And Lauren and or Liz, can you confirm? I found on the site that the regional councils in the state can be a resource to communities on the community rating system. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. All right. So again, the Hudson Valley Regional Council can be a resource to help you as you initially contemplating navigating. We have some resources. We did a white paper about 10 years back on the community rating system. So we have some just information and guidance, but for more technical support, I think the Hudson Valley Regional Council is the best place to start to explore this particular action. All right, next slide, please. All right, so another action in the Climate Smart Communities program, extremely relevant to watershed management and water, is the culverts and dams action. As you are all probably aware, dams, culverts, and bridges, they can become hydraulic obstructions and contribute to localized flooding near road stream crossings and present a hazard to the community if they routinely flood or are overtopped or completely wash out. They can also disrupt the aquatic connectivity of an ecosystem because they can essentially act as a barrier to fish and wildlife passage. Excuse me. So the Climate Smart Communities action around culverts and dam really focuses on removing dams and correctly sizing bridge and culverts to maintain beneficial floodplain functions and restore natural stream conditions, which can help reduce flooding impacts and restore aquatic connectivity. So in the Hudson Valley, the New York State DEC Hudson River Estuary Program, along with several partners, has been working for years to collect data on the many culverts in the valley, and collect data on their size and stream flows, and much more as part of the New York State Water Resource Institute Culverts Prioritization Project. And they've been collaborating with faculty and staff at Cornell and using this data to model what stream flow conditions will look like for assessed culverts in the next 30 years or more, and help determine whether culverts are properly sized for increased flows and for this aquatic connectivity. So this type of data can help communities make the proactive decisions and plan for the future when replacing failing infrastructure that not only saves them money, but also has the potential to reduce massive flood risks to the community. So this action kind of walks you through how to assess and the following steps to create to either right size bridges and culverts or remove dams. All right, next slide, please. So something that likely all of your communities already participate in is a hazard mitigation plan. And hazard mitigation, an effort in hazard mitigation really works to reduce loss by lessening the impact of disasters. It keeps natural hazards from becoming natural disasters. So updating a multi-hazard mitigation plan works to address the changing conditions and identify specific strategies to reduce vulnerabilities to the natural hazards that we face. And it is something that is relevant for all counties and all communities in New York State. As you likely know, in order to apply for FEMA hazard mitigation funds, counties and communities must have an up-to-date hazard mitigation plan, which requires them to be updated every 5 years. And there, as you also probably already know, there has been a lot of movement in the last 10 years or so for counties and communities to collaborate on plans. So, you know, all the counties in the Mid-Hudson region have a hazard mitigation plan, and counties have now been collaborating with the communities within their county to include annex sections for each community that wants to be involved. And it works to help ensure that all communities, large or small, have this important plan in place for their community. And through this action in the Climate Smart Communities program, it encourages local governments to integrate climate projections, so changes in future precipitation, sea level rise for our coastal communities, and extreme weather into their hazard mitigation plans, and identify specific actions to reduce vulnerability based on those climate projections. All right, so at this point, we're going to start transitioning to some of the actions that are definitely very relevant to watershed scale efforts, watershed work, and water quality, but are more focused on adaptation strategies for resilience communities. And we're going to talk also a little bit about, Kelsey and I are going to talk a little bit about some of the support that Cornell Cooperative extensions in the region may be able to provide to organizations who are interested in some of these coming actions. And then we're going to pass it off to the Hudson Valley Regional Council to also talk about. But before we go into this too, I just want to share that the actions that we're talking about today are just a sampling of the actions that are relevant to watershed groups and focus on water. And there are a ton that are just, you'll look at them and they'll be like, oh yeah, very water focused. But there are also many of them that are definitely relevant to the work that you do, even though it may not scream water action at the top of the title. So I highly encourage you to take a look at the Climate Smart Communities website if you haven't gone through the actions before, and learn more, but also contact the Hudson Valley Regional Council because they can tell you a lot more about some of the actions that we didn't have time to go over today. But as we transition, I do want to tell you a little bit about the Cornell Cooperative Extension Climate Resilience Partnership. So the Cornell Cooperative Extension Climate Resilience Partnership is a combination of research, demonstration, and educational outreach projects that work to address not only climate adaptation, but the challenges of flooding, stream and watershed management, and more importantly, provide technical assistance and support to communities for climate adaptation actions that are part of the Climate Smart Communities program. We do not focus and provide support on any of the mitigation actions that are part of the Climate Smart Communities program, because once again, the Hudson Valley Regional Council and the Mid-Hudson region and the Capital District Regional Planning Commission in the Capital District region can provide a lot more extensive support. And so in an effort to not overlap services, we partner together. Cooperative Extension often handles and helps communities with adaptations, and they can provide a lot more support than we ever would be able to on mitigation actions. So the Cornell Cooperative Extension Climate Resilience Partnership currently includes Cornell Cooperative Extension Dutchess County, Columbia Greene counties, Ulster County, Rockland County, and Rensselaer County. And in years past, it did also include Cornell Cooperative Extension of Orange County. And this project is a program of Cornell Cooperative Extension in partnership with the New York State DEC Hudson River Estuary Program and the New York Water Resource Institute at Cornell University, with support from the New York State Environmental Protection Fund. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey to tell you a little bit more about some of the actions that we can provide support on.
All right, so I'm just going to provide you all with kind of a rapid fire version of some of the assistance that the CCE Climate Resilience Project might be able to offer to you. So the first project can be really helpful to communities that are just getting their bearings with the Climate Smart Communities program. And this is conducting a Climate Smart Communities assessment. So given the sheer number of actions that are available, it can be a little easy to get overwhelmed. So through guidance and expertise of our CCE staff, we can help you navigate these actions and kind of assess and hone in on those that have been completed, that might be partially completed, some that are in progress, but we can also sit down and provide a series of recommendations that you might be interested in pursuing that align with some of your existing climate resilience and climate action goals. So this results in the assessment, and really we look at it as a kind of a comprehensive roadmap to completing certification within the program. So it can be very helpful when you're just starting out. And once we get through that assessment, we can also offer communities some assistance with submitting to Climate Smart Communities. So we can assist in coordination of documentation gathering and also with just your submission into the Climate Smart Communities portal, which includes a review of your submission material. So this is a helpful service. There we go. Okay. So the next project that we can help with is the evaluate policies for climate resilience action. So this involves completing a state developed tool called the Climate Smart Resilience Planning Tool. And this is a gap analysis tool that guides communities through reviewing existing codes, plans, and ordinances to identify gaps and vulnerabilities to climate change. So by reviewing these municipal documents and including municipal staff and community members, the tool recognizes your community strengths, some opportunities, and identifies growth areas related to climate resilience. So these recommendations that result from the tool can include items to include in your county hazard mitigation plan, a community comprehensive plan, and also can inform information to include an emergency planning or emergency planning outreach. And more importantly, it can also include some strategies to reduce vulnerabilities to flooding and other climate hazards as well. So this is a priority action within climate smart communities and is worth 6 points towards your submission. But it also sets the stage for a lot of other really helpful actions. Once a community utilizes the tool to analyze some gaps, it's really helpful to include those in existing plans or as you're updating plans. So a comprehensive plan, for example, can serve as a conduit for developing a strategy for communities to utilize tools for protecting open space, floodplains, and stream buffers, as well as prioritize projects that protect current and future infrastructure within your community. So it can also include visions for climate resilience and other ways to incorporate sustainability and environmental health. So the particular action within climate smart communities is called incorporating sustainability elements and comprehensive plans. And by going through an update and including specific criteria from climate smart communities, you can earn 21 points within the program. So next is that we can assist communities with developing a resilience vision. So establishing a vision for what your community could look like when it's resilient to climate change and climate hazards is important for building a cohesive community and providing a goal for which to gauge progress. So an effective vision is established collectively with stakeholders and provides an opportunity for community members to define local adaptation goals. This could include visions for a healthy watershed, and water resources could certainly have a place in this vision as well. And completing this action would count towards 3 points in the Climate Smart Communities program under the climate adaptation action. And building this climate resilience vision is actually a really important step towards creating a climate adaptation plan because it gives your community kind of a baseline for what you're trying to achieve a little bit more holistically. So next, we can also assist your communities in creating helpful resources and education and outreach materials. So in particular, we know that climate hazard events being prepared for them can speed evacuations, ensure safety of residents. So one thing that CCE staff can aid communities in is by working to create a toolkit of resources to enhance community emergency preparedness outreach. And this toolkit includes resources for community websites, social media, and print. And we are also working with communities or have worked with communities to develop flood preparedness guides. These guides are a resource for residents that outline community-specific emergency preparedness information and what to do before, during, and after flooding events. And lastly, and these are not kind of a full picture of the projects that we offer, just some highlights as they might relate to some of your interests. But we also have completed riparian buffer assessments as part of our partnership. So CCE staff may be able to produce an assessment that identifies priority buffer areas for municipalities to consider conserving or revegetating. And this assessment is produced by reviewing mapping tools and other literature, including the New York State Riparian Opportunity Assessment. And also the process includes heavy stakeholder engagement as well. So this assessment counts towards 2 points for climate smart communities and also could inform the implementation of a future riparian buffer project. And I think I'll probably leave it at that for now. This is Carolyn and I's contact information. We do welcome you to reach out. We can see if there are any ways that we can assist you, or we can also direct you to other people who can assist you, like the Hudson Valley Regional Council. So with that, I am going to end my time and pass things over to Elizabeth Sun, who is a Clean Energy Communities Coordinator with the Hudson Valley Regional Council.
Thanks, Kelsey. I'm going to pull up the slides now. So hi, I'm Liz Sun, and I am the Clean Energy Communities Coordinator at HVRC. I'll mainly be talking about the Climate Smart Communities program and how we provide assistance to municipalities. So a little bit about the Hudson Valley Regional Council. HVRC is one of 9 regional councils in New York State and one of over 600 nationally. We provide technical support to municipalities across these various programmatic areas listed here. So please feel free to reach out to any of us on these areas. In general, we provide basic certification assistance on the CSE program, so answering any questions about actions, reviewing certification applications. We, as Carolyn and Kelsey had mentioned, we do provide more assistance on the mitigation actions in CSE. We had received funding from the DEC to provide further technical assistance and work in depth with communities to assist them in completing 4 priority actions. So greenhouse gas inventories and climate action plans for the government operations and community overall. My colleague, Melanie Patapis, is about to begin the community greenhouse gas inventory cohort. If you are interested in pursuing it, please reach out. And yeah, so that's it. This is my contact information, as well as my colleagues, Eleanor Peck and Melanie Patapis, and then also to shout out again, Lauren Bunce, our Water Resources Coordinator, who can provide additional assistance on some of the water-related CSC actions, especially for drinking water source protection program plans. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much to our presenters, Kelsey West, Carolyn Klocker, and Liz Sun, for providing that overview. We have only had one question in the Q&A, but it was a good one. I did answer it in the text because I wanted that person to know the answer, but I thought we could talk a little bit about it. The question was around, is this something that could be done on a county level, or is it more geared towards individual communities and organizations? And one thing that I neglected to include is that this is open for municipal governments within New York State exclusively. So if you are a nonprofit, if you are an agency, there's opportunities to support those municipalities in their work, but you as an entity would not be eligible for the program. But again, this is all about collaborations and bringing everyone's strengths together. So I wanted to ask our speakers, I actually went through and checked Albany County, Columbia County, Dutchess, Ulster, Orange, and Westchester are all certified in the Hudson Valley. If any of you have had experience working with the counties directly as opposed to the towns, cities, villages that are also eligible.
Yeah, Kelsey and I are fortunate enough to work with Dutchess County directly on their Climate Smart Communities work, and are on the Dutchess County Climate Smart Communities Task Force. And so yeah, it's not every single action is relevant to a county, but a majority of them are. There are also opportunities for communities within a county to collaborate and each receive points on actions. But yeah, it's really fantastic. We love working with the county. And what I find is when a county is working on climate smart communities, they really they kind of set the stage, and it provides some rallying and some assistance to the communities within their county, and kind of creates this collaborative and cooperative environment. I think Ulster County is a great example of this. They've been kind of leading the way at the county scale for some of this work and actions, and it's really fostered this environment with communities in Ulster County to want to pursue climate smart communities. But I'll let Liz touch on this a little bit more as well too.
Sorry, I think your audio had just cut out for me. Did you just part?
Is there, I just mentioned, is there, if there was anything that you wanted to add, Liz, around like county involvement in the Climate Smart Communities program?
Yeah, the counties are definitely involved in the program, and we try and work with them as well as their municipalities to sort of put together plans as well. it's definitely a joint effort, and it's great to see them all working together.
Yeah, thanks so much. Another question came in around comprehensive planning. So Claremont, town of Claremont in Columbia County, is preparing a final draft of their comprehensive plan. Is there someone they can send that draft to get feedback before it's finalized?
I would start with taking a look at that particular action, and then communicate with, I'm trying to remember, what county is Claremont located in?
Columbia County.
Columbia County. Oh, so you can reach out to the staff at CCE Columbia Green, but I'd highly recommend starting with the Capital District Regional Planning Commission as a resource on that particular action. I feel like, and Kelsey, I know Kelsey's worked on this action with some communities in Dutchess County, but I feel like that action kind of explains pretty well on the Climate Smart Communities website the elements to incorporate to get credit for this particular action. And so Jeffrey, I'd take a look at that, because it may already be in there. If your community is already thinking about sustainability and climate change and things like that, you may already be incorporating some of those elements. So that might be a great place to start. Then I would talk to Liz and CCE Columbia Green, Audrey Kropp in particular, and I'll make sure to message you her contact information. They may be able to be a resource to you in the future as well.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Great. Well, I just want to give a huge thank you again to our presenters. Thanks to everyone for joining us this morning. It's the kickoff to the Hudson Valley Climate Solutions Week. It's the start of our new webinar series on climate smart communities. The school year is beginning. We hope you feel energized and good about all of the great work to come. We hope to see you at our annual Watershed Conference. Again, that's October 11th as a webinar and October 24th in person in Hyde Park. And we hope to see you at next month's session. That will be Thursday, October 12th at 8:30 in the morning. Since I've gotten some questions, just a reminder too that we've recorded this session. We'll be sending out the video. We'll be sharing the PDFs. So you'll have all of those resources at your fingertips to get some support and implement climate smart communities actions. So thanks so much, everyone. We hope you have a great day.